We hope you've really enjoyed the conference so far. As Day 2 draws to a close, we're excited to introduce you to an interactive session. So get your questions ready for an Ask Me Anything session with the wonderful Caruana Gatimu from Microsoft, covering everything on Microsoft Teams.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am looking forward to answering your questions this morning. So I hope that you have them. I know that some of you submitted questions in advance, and I'm going to answer those. But as more things come to your mind, please put them in the chat window, and I will answer them as they come in. So we definitely had some themes that I could see from the questions that came in, and I kind of grouped them together. So we had questions around what tool when, we had questions around features and roadmap, and then we had a couple questions about kind of life hacks, like what are my favorite features or my favorite way to make Teams give me more productivity in my day. So I'm going to start with the what tool when, because sometimes people really need to think about that until they can, once they know what tool they're in, then they're able to actually get some work done. In my keynote yesterday, I covered the modern collaboration architecture. And those slides are in my deck that you're going to have access to. They're also available, all that information and a great video by the author of that framework, Rishi, is on our adoption.microsoft.com website. And it really organizes what tool when. And especially it talks about the difference between personal productivity and team productivity, and then being part of a bigger community. And community is where Yammer comes in. One of the questions was about how to think about a Teams versus Yammer. And I always do that when I'm trying to get to a large group of people. Now, it does depend on how big your organization is and if you already have an investment in Yammer. So if you are in an organization that's small to medium, maybe 500-600 people, or even a couple of thousand, you might choose instead to have an organizational team in Teams as that place where you drive community in your company. But for us at Microsoft, we have more people in our communities than Teams can support membership at this time, and so we definitely use Yammer. But there will always be a place for Yammer in driving communities, and hopefully that can answer that question. Outlook has been the primary communication method in companies for years. Does Microsoft plan on Teams becoming that replacement in the future? Absolutely not. People ask me this question all the time. We have no plans for that. And it's not that we have no plans, like I'm not sharing our product plans with you. Outlook is your individual productivity surface. And if you go check out the Mocha, it will tell you about that, because it's fantastic for that. It's great for managing my own calendar. It's great for personal communications that are sent to me, as well as a larger group of other people, like communications from my HR department or from automated tools in my company that are reminding me to do things of that nature. So Outlook is going to remain that individual productivity surface, but what you're going to see is more connectivity between the two, very much like as we think about task management, tasks from Outlook being able to show up in the Tasks for Teams application, along with your other tasks that are just for you from Microsoft To Do. So you will see scenarios like that, but Outlook will remain the awesome tool that it is. And I wanted to address these 5 life hacks for Teams. I thought that was a great question. And a couple of things. I have a team actually that's just for me. And I use it to practice things, to try out new apps. I have actually my task list for myself happens to be in there. I have a couple of different channels. I take notes for myself in there. My own meeting notes live there. So you might try that. You might try just make a team for yourself, because also if you want to try new things like different app integrations or what have you, you don't always want to do that in front of everyone else. So you can use that personal team to do that. The other thing is I'm a big fan of the O365 group calendar. We use that in my Microsoft Teams event hub. We use that in different places. And it allows me to have appointments that come from that calendar so more than one person can manage them. Have you ever had that ghost meeting on your calendar that couldn't go away because that person was no longer at the company or had just were just out for some period of time? So I like to have those shared calendars. Now we're doing work on having shared calendars inside of Microsoft Teams that will come in the future, and it kind of lets me move over into the features and roadmap. One of the things that I love to do that is a hack for me is that I pin chats from key people on my team up at the top. So I get a lot of chats, as you can imagine. I love the people who name their chat. And if you don't, I will name it for you. Did you know that you don't have to be the initiator of a chat to rename it? I think a name is essential because a bunch of chats from people with a bunch of different names doesn't really help me manage my workflow. So I will rename chats, definitely a life hack, but the pinning of the important people in chat, and I have a chat that is just with my team, and that one is pinned up at the top as well. So every time I go to chat, I can look at those, I can scan my boss, I can scan all of my team members, I can put something into my core team or my extended team, and then I have a mentoring circle that's there. So that really helps me keep on top of that stuff. There is, so I'm going to now switch over to the questions that were asked about features and roadmap. And I'm also going to bring up the Q&A here so that I can see what else you're putting in. Pardon me while I put my glasses on and off here. A really good question, which is relevant to what we're doing today, is that, hang on one second, I do believe interruption in my video here. There we go. There was a question here about there's a 20-second lag when you're producing a Teams live event. And will that be addressed? No, because it's intentional. So if you've ever worked in broadcast television or with any of the other broadcast tools, there is always a delay before a signal goes live. And that gives the producers the opportunity to address any difficulties that they have. In broadcast television, that's when they put in the beeps, for any words that cannot be broadcast. So Teams Live Event is a broadcast tool. We used it with the NBA, the Basketball Association, the Football Association, the government officials. I mean, it's being used in very large broadcast situations, and that is its intent. So that 20-second delay is always going to be there for us producers out there so that we can make quick adjustments during a live stream if we need to. Breakout rooms and other things, what's on the roadmap, what are plans for the product. I did a little bit of an overview of that yesterday in my deck yesterday, and so I do hope that you grab that recording or take a look at the slides that I have published. Breakout rooms, large meeting layouts, live reactions and polls, custom layouts, all of that is coming in what is now our Q4 of this calendar year. So before the end of the room. Breakout rooms have already launched in some tenants, and so they are making their way worldwide. If they're not in your tenant today, you should be seeing them soon this month. And new Together Mode scenes as well will continue to roll out. So, go and visit ak.ms Microsoft Teams Roadmap, or you can just go to the M365 Roadmap and filter on Teams. There happens to be a lot of things there. And I want to say something for folks who may be in government or for some reason or another participate in a GCC tenant. Those features have been tagged with the time that they are going to arrive in GCC. So we're working very hard on getting much better at letting our government customers know when features will arrive in their experience. Now, that's super relevant to the folks who are coming from the US who will be listening to this, because many of them have to be in one of those 3 government clouds. In many cases around the world, government agencies use our commercial tenant, and so you're good to go. But making sure that you know that you can see what environment that feature will land in when you go look at our roadmap now. And if something doesn't have that tag, we're working on making sure that that gets out to you. All right. Is there spell check in Teams? Yes, there is. And you will see those little red squigglies underneath your words. When Teams first launched, it was a different spell check module, and everybody wondered why that was true. Well, it was just a matter of the overhead of onboarding to the one that existed in all the other Office apps. But that's one of the things that we're doing, along with performance and user experience tweaks, and continuing to add more features but make the client run more efficiently. We continue to use the amazing infrastructure of all the other services across Microsoft. And you'll see us, just like we did with spell check, snap to those things over time. And somebody asked me a great question, and this comes up a lot, so I wanted to address it. And it says, can you search just in one chat? So search in Teams doesn't quite work like that, but what you can do is when you search up in the top in your power bar and your results come up, you can filter them. And so I often filter them to a chat to the person that I'm looking for, and that dramatically reduces the search results. And that ability to search in an individual chat or in the pane, the thread that you happen to be looking at that time, is definitely coming. If you're looking for a chat that happens to be in a channel or a team, and you already know that, you can filter directly to that. So you don't have to just scan through all the results. Definitely use that filter over on the left-hand side above where the view of the different search results appear, and you'll be able to do that filtering, and I feel like that would really help. All right. So Sharka, do we have any other questions? So the other thing is, in this format, if you see a topic or a question that comes through and you want it to be answered, please make sure to vote on it with a thumbs up. Put a little like on it, and then we'll know what it is that you would like us to answer. Do we have any out there right now, Sharka, that I should be answering?
We have one which is live and many which were submitted.
Okay.
Before.
Go ahead. And
So
I've been doing the submitted one, so go ahead and do the live one for me right now.
Definitely. We have some older people who does not read well on phones and tablets. Have you thought about anything that can help this targeted audience?
When you say it does not read well on phones, do you mean, maybe you could follow up in the chat, do you mean from an accessibility standpoint, or do you mean from a language standpoint? There are features for both. But I'd love to know which area you were asking about. If it's the size, the view on that tablet or mobile device, because every manufacturer does do things that allow you to increase the font size. So just short story, my mother lost her vision not that long ago. Well, actually, it's been a while now, several years, actually. I want to say 3. She has macular degeneration, and she was an avid reader. That's where I got it from. Very voracious for knowledge, loved her computer. So we've really gone through this journey of using accessibility features and using the screen reader and other things. And so I did purchase her the last couple of times a mobile device that supports those accessibility features and especially talk conversion, on her mobile device. So, and it will read the screen to her. Now that happens to be an Android device. I'm sure that iOS does it as well. But that Android device also lets me turn on the accessibility features to increase the font size, increase the icon size, and do things to really help her navigate her mobile device. I also did get her a larger form factor for it. On her computer, the same thing applies. She uses Windows 10, the magnification and speech to text features to allow her to see what's happening on the screen more easily. You might wonder if she uses Teams. Yes, she does. But very, very frequently, she's in email. She likes to watch the videos that I produce on YouTube. So she is an avid attendee of all of these different events. I'm now remembering I probably should have invited her to my keynote yesterday, so I'll have to send her the video. So if it's an accessibility issue, I would ask you to check out the options that are in your device for doing that. The screen readers will also read what is happening in the Microsoft Teams client to you. And speech to text is a brilliant thing in chat on your mobile device. And so definitely in the suggested responses that now come up so that you don't have to actually type the response. So I hope I've gone in the right direction there. I don't know if they answered, Sharka, if it was about the language.
Yes, it was size and view.
Okay, great, great. So I went down the right path then. That's awesome. But I will say also that accessibility is also something that in live events, being able to turn on your captions, being able to do translation, I feel like these are really important things that are built into Teams live events and also into Teams meetings. And those features are designed for inclusivity. And I talk quite a bit about creating inclusive events, and it applies to meetings as well in my virtual event playbook. I believe that the Microsoft technology for inclusion is far superior to what exists in other products. And that combined with our security capabilities makes us best in class for these sorts of things. And so I encourage you to go check that out. Because I've got a whole section also on how to make your content inclusive. And you know, for better or worse, many people don't think about that, but there's an accessibility checker in PowerPoint. And that allows you to create a presentation that when it gets to someone like my mom, who needs to use the screen reader in PowerPoint, she'll be able to hear it. Right? And it'll be read to her in the proper order. The order of your objects in a PowerPoint presentation is everything. So we actually go through those same reviews when we're building the client for Microsoft Teams. So I really love that work. You can get the virtual event playbook on adoption.microsoft.com. The beginning parts of that talk about accessibility features, both in Teams and in Office, and you'll be able to improve your work. Because I definitely learned in doing this journey that, you know, half of it is the software itself and the other half is the content. If your website, if your company website does not act nicely with screen readers or support people who have low vision scenarios, then that's a real problem for them. So I encourage you to check out your pages and make sure that they do. Okay, so when will it be possible to do a voice note on the desktop for Teams? That is in our backlog for sure. I know that actually now I do use Cortana and Voice when I'm dictating a long chat. But oftentimes I will dictate something long, like if I'm doing kind of a memo or a broader team notification over in OneNote. And then I can use voice to text with absolutely no difficulty. And then I'll just move it over into Teams. But the ability to have that little microphone icon like you have on mobile, which is so brilliant, I have to say. I use voice to text a lot on my mobile device, even if I'm around a desktop computer. And it's quite helpful. One of the life hacks I'll tell you also that I've seen many people at Microsoft do, and I actually picked up from a gentleman named Prem, who is the product manager for Teams templates. He started to take meetings while he was on a walk. Some meetings you don't have to present. You were there to provide input, or you're just there to listen and learn, or you're there to make a decision, but you don't actually need to be presenting or need your computer. And now that getting my steps in is quite a bit of a challenge, he started doing that. And so many others have now started doing that. And so that's a combo life hack and thing. But if I need to text something while I'm doing that, I can do the speech to text capability in the Teams mobile app, and I don't have to stop my walk, and stand there and try to respond in chat. I can simply say what I need to say to my device. So that is coming to desktop. I do not believe it's landing in Q4, but it's likely on the roadmap itself. I thought that that was coming later at the end of the next quarter in our calendar, calendar year 21. Let's see here. Do I have anything else live that I should be looking at?
We have many of them, so let's mix it. So
Great.
one of them is when we will be able to edit the metadata of the document library in the Files tab of the Teams.
Well, you can now. You can do that now. If you go to SharePoint and you edit the metadata, if I add a column to the document library, to the content type that is being used there, it will now show up in Teams in your client. And if I'm talking about something that hasn't made it to you yet, which may be possible, actually, I don't think so. I do believe that that capability is live. And if it hasn't rolled to your tenant yet, then it will soon. And actually, the goal is for you to be able to edit that SharePoint view and either add columns or customize the view that you have in Teams very soon. So we want to bring more of that SharePoint goodness into the client. And I just love that addition of that capability of adding those columns, because as you can imagine, as a former SharePoint person, still a SharePoint person, but I don't do as much with it every day. I'm very accustomed to making my view in SharePoint look any way I want. So you can do that in lists, and you can definitely do that in your document library. Great question.
So it was just edited and asking without opening SharePoint.
I see. It's not the intent. No, you're not going to be able to. You can add a column in the upcoming capability in the document in the files area in SharePoint in Teams. You'll be able to edit the view and add existing columns. And if I'll have to go and test it, but I actually believe you can add a new column in that area. If you want to edit the underlying content type or switch document library content types, those are core features of SharePoint. And so you should just be able to click on the Open in SharePoint and go and do that work there. We're not really trying to bring all the features of SharePoint inside of Teams. It's not the great editing. It's not the best editing environment for all of that. So those sorts of things you will always do in the native app. And in this case, that happens to be SharePoint. Good question. What else you got, Sharka?
So we have a couple from Stephen. Let's start with this one. I have a Power BI Pro license, so I can build reports, but do each of my team need a Power BI license for my team to consume my reports through Teams? I ask, as the Microsoft Power BI webpage seems to say us, but in a conference last week, Microsoft people said no. It's covered by just, okay.
Yeah, no,
so
you do not.
Stephen is confused.
Sorry if we're confusing you. Power Platform licensing all up can be very confusing. Creating reports requires that pro license. Consuming them does not, and that is the difference. If you wanted to have people take your report and then build new ones on top of it, or contribute to it, then that would be different. But simply to view those reports in Teams, there's no additional pro license required. So, and I will take a note to go and check that page. If that's unclear on our page, we can get that updated. So thank you for telling us that.
We have one from Nadia. Will it be possible to answer to a specific message in a chat from desktop as it is already possible in the mobile app?
Absolutely. And what she's referring to is one of my favorite features, actually. This probably goes up in the favorite features life hack area, and it's called quoting. So the ability to quote a specific chat from the thread above and answer it with it embedded right above it. It's just such a brilliant thing. And it makes consuming these chat conversations so much easier. That is coming to desktop. I already have it in my preview rings. So do our customers who are in the early adopter or TAP area. And so you will be seeing, yes, quoted chats coming to your desktop very soon. And that's a good point, actually, that Many of our features often roll out to mobile first. A variety of reasons for that, massive amount of mobile usage, we're a mobile first company, but also it's simply the infrastructure of the way that the features roll out. And so sometimes you will see something in your mobile device before it makes it to your desktop, like voice to text, quoted replies, things of that nature, pinning of custom apps that came to mobile first. So that's going to be a common pattern that you're going to see with Microsoft Teams. So if you're an operations professional, service management in IT, or if you're a champion, it's important to tell people that, hey, you may see this feature in your mobile device first. I certainly hope that every person in your organization is using our mobile experience, whether it's on an iPad, an Android tablet, or an actual mobile phone, because it really does help people to not feel tied to their desk, especially during this time. There's no reason that I can't go for a walk and take a meeting. There's no reason that I can't listen to the recording of a meeting that I missed while I'm on my walk. Things of that nature. And also just those quick chats back and forth, etc. I really encourage people to use that mobile device, and you will always get your features first.
Nice.
Okay,
We have another good one.
great.
During the Teams meeting, we have found no way to lock the video spotlight on the main speaker. Is that even possible?
You're talking about spotlighting. Spotlighting is a feature that will be coming to you. Again, that's something that we are testing, and I believe that that launches this quarter. And so you'll be able to lock the video on another person who's speaking, on the content. Focus mode already exists and is also coming. And that focus mode lets you move everything out of the way. It closes chat in a regular Teams meeting so that you can just look at whatever is being presented. But Spotlight is how you manage what view people have in the meeting itself. So yes, that and additional layouts will be coming to your client in this quarter before the end of the year. It's a great question. I've wanted that for a very long time, so I'm happy we're going to get it now.
So another one, when recording Microsoft Teams meeting, the quality of the video seems to be very low. Has there been any discussion about giving producers more control over the quality of these recordings, like fine-tuning settings beyond simply selecting a device?
That's a great question. Well, in a live event scenario, first let me say that the quality of the video is directly related to the camera and its connections. So you shouldn't be getting video quality issues in your recording at all, number one. So for me, that's a troubleshooting issue because I record meetings all day, every day. I do large scale events and live events and in Microsoft Teams meetings, and my video is, hopefully, as you're seeing it right now, essentially perfect. So I would also check to see if I would be very interested to know if everyone in that meeting was on Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi connection. Your network bandwidth, your connection makes a huge difference in the quality of the video you are presenting. That video then, of course, is being recorded. So, and that is happening in the cloud. And then, of course, you're pulling that video down and viewing it, or maybe moving it to another service for hosting. So there's a lot of components there, but out of the box today, you should be getting crystal clear video from Teams meeting recordings and live events. Now, that being said, in the live event space, yes, there are additional ways, especially when you do advanced production scenarios using tools like OBS and NDI, where those tools give you additional ability to make adjustments on the video quality, the frame rate, the exposure of the camera, all of these things that contribute to a great video. And so those, what we call advanced scenarios, those custom production advanced scenarios, we're going to be addressing in the additional chapters of our virtual event playbook that we're publishing this quarter. So you will get more information around that. But I would speak to, I don't know if you're the IT person yourself, there's documentation online, file a support ticket. Let's get to the bottom of what's going on in your networking environment that's impacting the quality of your video. Awesome question.
Another one related to Planner. Is there a plan to be able to take a chat and turn it into a task in either To-Do or Planner? I really hope so. Thank you, Stephen.
Yes, there is. So you may not have received this change yet, but in Teams, Planner will be called Tasks. So Tasks for Teams is in the process of rolling out worldwide, and we will be completing that very shortly this month. I know some of you have been waiting for that for a very long time. We wanted to start that rollout and finish it in September. That's from our original plan of June. So yes, it has slipped rather dramatically, but we are getting it done. It is in process right now. Tasks in Teams is really the kind of the view you have of what we call the Task Coherence Project inside of Microsoft. So that's bringing this ecosystem of task management tools really together. And that will include project tasks from Azure DevOps, flagged emails, and this ability to be able to right-click on a chat and turn it into a task. So I am happy to say that yes, that is coming soon. That is one of our top requested new features in tasks. And so because you all have voted it up so much, you gave my advocate voice power in going back to the feature team as they were scheduling their next features, saying, look, everybody really needs and wants this. I need and want the ability to make a task out of a chat. Will you please do this? And they were like, oh yeah, absolutely. So don't ever think that the work that you do or the feedback you give in user voice doesn't count. And Sharka, who's on this call right now, has been working deeply with that team, reading the feedback, classifying the feedback, both in user voice, but through all of the channels that we get. And so I'm very excited to be able to say yes. And you're going to ask me when, and I'm going to hope here in Q4. Worst case scenarios that would come next quarter after the turn of the year. That'd be the worst case scenario. But I actually think that they're actively coding it right now. So, of course, our biggest focus is to get the new task experience out to all of our commercial customers 100%, then to our government clouds, and then start rolling new features. So that's the plan there. Somebody also asked me, and I believe it was here in the questions that were pre-submitted, about flagged emails, and that's the one reason that they have To-Do still open, but the flagged email view will also come into Tasks and Teams as well. So for any of you who haven't used it, Tasks and Teams allows you to have these personal and smart lists, as well as views of the planners or the task lists that you created inside of Teams. Planner, the product still works, not going away. If you go to that web experience and you have a planner that was created outside of Teams, you will have access to it with no problem. But the ones that you've made inside of Teams will show up through the Tasks and Teams application and when it is available in your particular tenant. That is good. I do have one question here that somebody submitted, and I didn't quite understand it. So Alice, if you're out there listening, I'd love you to give me more insight in your question that says, sometimes when I backspace in Teams, it clears letters. And it's like I'm on a character limit, and is there any way to turn that off? So I don't actually get that, but I have a hunch that you might be talking about the fact that when you're backspacing in Teams, once you do it for a little while, it will just take the whole word. You might be talking about that, or you might be talking about the actual character limit in a chat. It's 256 kilobytes is the character limit in any Teams chat. And so, yes, there is a limit, and no, there isn't a way to turn it off. And so that's why I always encourage people, when you're writing these very lengthy things, maybe that should be a SharePoint page or a Word document or some other form of communication rather than just a super huge chat. We have an abbreviation inside of Microsoft, TLDR. It means too long, didn't read. And so for those really long things, we always put at the top the TLDR of this, basically the summary. If you read these 2 sentences, you'll understand everything underneath it. And if you want all of the detail, then great, you can read that. But not everybody needs all the detail. I'm not the detail person until I need it. So I will read all the TLDRs of very long emails or or chats, and I will then come back to that if I need the rest of the detail or have another question. So there is a character limit though, so you might be running into that in your chat. Sharka, I think we have time. I believe this ends at 8:30. I think we have time for one more, or you can tell me
Yeah.
how much time we have. Okay.
We have 2 minutes. We have very much unanswered questions. However, I have great for you, personally you.
Okay.
So I have seen folks from Microsoft who have the autoresponder that they are working completely in Teams. How you can work in the tool where you can not mark things to do for later time with reminder, or maybe you can do this, but we don't know how to do this.
Ah, that's a great question. Okay. So, yes, I will say that for 95% of my work is in Teams. I only recently started going back to email because I happen to have a group of folks, because of the nature of their work, they work pretty much in email. And so I have to be there to coordinate and collaborate with them. And I'll get them to Teams shortly. Just I haven't got to it yet. But so it's all about team and channel organization and that ability for me to have my own personal team where I have channels and task lists and what have you. I can put in a link to a chat for a reminder. But I have to say that I don't actually run my business on reminders. I run my business on my plans because frankly, the volume of requests and information and things of that nature that come into me and to my team is extremely high. And so I'm very focused on not responding or reacting all the time, but actually focused on what are we delivering. And I also am pretty intense about making sure that when people are requesting services from my team, when people are requesting appearances for even from me, that those things go through a request form. And when people send me the random chat about, hey, can you give me a little bit of Teams training? I send them to my live training page, right? I have functions now that I can send people to, which reduces the volume. But very rarely do I actually need a reminder from a chat because the chats that I'm in are happening in the infrastructure that I created. I have something we call a Microsoft Teams Event Hub. There's a channel for all of the events that we manage, right? And so all of my event work is one place, and I have one for webinars and for event strategy and planning. Those are channels in a team where I have consolidated that work. All of the work that I do across adoption and all the scale enablement that I do is in one other team with many people and many channels. I am a big fan of bigger teams and more channels. The difficulty in managing teams is when your attention is fragmented over too many teams. So I have a video about that on Coffee in the Cloud. I'll make sure to post it out in the channel, in the community channel. And maybe you just gave me an idea for another video that I should probably do. So thank you for that question. If I didn't get to your question, thank you for submitting it. I will be doing my best to put answers in the chat as well. We have some that came in obviously from other places and my other events. So I really appreciate that. And we'll do our best to get you answers. And Sharka and myself are here to help. But thank you so much for all those questions and for having me.